Let people in. Welcome, everyone. Great to see you all. So many wonderful faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good week. It's
Yeah.
a good week. I feel like a few weekends back, it was Easter weekend. I think we were a little thin on attendance, totally understandable. And also we didn't, the illustrious Nick Gravagna is here today. So you're drawing a
Well,
crowd.
those are your words, not mine. I'm just hanging out, enjoying myself in this nice, cool shirt. So
Cool.
maybe I have an illustrious shirt anyway. That's for sure.
Yeah, seeing some fun folks in here. Steve Brady's joining us today. Welcome to
Steve, all right.
Good to see you, Steve, out there on the West Coast. Jeannie Grassi's here. Good to see you. Chris
Jeannie, hi,
Brown, Phil
Jeannie.
Bondi. Awesome.
Hi,
Nick
Phil.
Lassard up there from Canada.
Carl
Very
Lindgren.
cool. Good stuff. All right. Well, we're live now, and we started maybe 60 to 90 seconds late. So I'll jump into it. I'll give a little bit of intro for anybody that's new to this, and give a little intro to Nick, and we'll get started and get the chat running. So welcome. This is Piano Tech Radio Hour. This is the program that's being brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online educational resource that offers you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more about that at www.pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And today we have a guest on Radio Hour. We have guests, very interesting people from the piano industry. Nick Gravagna combines a formal engineering background with over 40 years of hands-on experience in piano design, manufacturing, and rebuilding. He has authored numerous articles for the piano trade and has been a featured instructor at piano technical seminars all over the U.S. His business currently revolves around rebuilding and manufacturing custom soundboards for the piano rebuilding trade. So it's really great to see you and have you back here, Nick. We had you for the
Thank you.
convention a few weeks back, so
Yeah.
loving it.
Yeah. That was good. That was good. Good to be there. Good to see
Yeah.
everybody today,
Yeah.
and in their busy lives, taking an hour out. I love the format. I think this is one of the greatest things going right now. It's casual,
It's a
relaxed, and
it's a
yet very
casual
informative.
thing that attracts a serious
Very
crowd,
so
which I think is pretty cool.
casual thing that attracts a serious crowd. Okay, so
So
we can
so
talk about anything you want today. I noticed that in one of your emails, Ethan, you had said it would be voicing centric. It doesn't have to be that,
yeah, if
but
people have
I'm ready to
questions, yeah.
talk about anything, and all things, because I've done a lot in every aspect of this business, fortunately, and I've enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. I've rubbed elbows with a lot of great people in our trade. This is not a singular deal, I mean, those of us who've been in this for several decades can remember in the past where work was hidden. I worked for one music store where a grand action had been pulled out of a Steinway piano, and a big moving blanket had been thrown over the top because the technician that was working there, who was the store technician, didn't want me to see what was going on. And those are the dark ages. And things have been open source for a long, long time now. That's definitely beginning in the 80s, but definitely late 80s through the 90s. The really blew the lid off things with the journal articles and a lot of teaching, and also what happened at Steinway when they started to bring in people like Eric Shondal, Kevin Stock, Kent Webb, who's there now, Scott Jones. These people working for Steinway were from us. They were from the trenches. And so when they started giving classes out there, it also became much more open source. So that's the track we've been on for a long time, and I'm glad to have been a part of it and continue to be part of it. As many of you who are viewing it right now are also in that track. So,
Yeah.
where do you want to begin, Ethan?
Well, actually, one thing that was coming up for me is curious if you want to share about what your experience with the convention that we did was like. How did that go for you? How did you like the format, the audience? Any highlights for you? Yeah.
Well, it went great. I mean, I enjoyed every minute of it, and I watched all the classes, which was, my privilege to be able to do. Being one of the instructors, we've got access to everything, and I just thought I thought it was great. I don't know what I can add to that other than, at your end, you have the logistics, you have the feedback, you have a lot of different things going on in your end that inform you as to, how it went and how you're interpreting the results. But, as a format, I thought it was great. I like the fact that, it was like one class after another. There was no competition, where it often happens, at live conventions where people have to decide, oh, I really want to see so and so, but it conflicts with that. Well, I guess I'm going to have to make a couple of hard choices here. That's not the case, with that kind of format. So, other than that, I look forward to more of them and to be in, more of them are coming. So.
Yeah, that always stresses me out about conventions and group gatherings, because I'm much kind of more of an extemporaneous personality type. So I kind of show up and let things lead me where they lead me. And, what that tends to turn out as at a convention is I kind of lose out, actually, because you kind of got to plan ahead. You got to see what the lectures are that you want to go to. And then you really got to logistically.
Being a feather in the wind is not always the
No.
best way. I mean, the catalogs too, they come with little bubbles so you can check off your stuff in advance, Steve. And I don't know if you ever noticed that, but that helps.
Trust me. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like a personality type kind of thing. But what I end up getting out of it. Yeah, we can hear you, David. How's it going? Did you have something to chime in with, David? Oh, okay.
Up again. Yeah.
Okay. No, but one thing I do get out of it is I meet interesting people, in the hallways, and have interesting conversations with people that I run into. Norbert Abel or something, sitting in the hallway between sessions and just sit down and have a chat about the piano industry.
Well, I just want to tell everybody that I'm talking now.
Okay, go ahead, David. Did you want to cut in and say something?
Well, I want to tell everybody that I'm having deep internet problems.
Yeah.
My wife is on the phone with a provider right now. We're going to try to reboot the system. So I'm really sorry having these issues, but
I'm curious if we can, at this point, we have a little bit of a critical mass of like a bit of a gang here, so if anybody's having, if you're having trouble with the internet provider, maybe we can all gang up and, make them pay, get something to happen. Makes sense.
Can we get Nick's volume up?
Is my volume not good enough?
We tried a little bit. If you just move, if you're using your computer audio, Nick, you could just scoot in a little bit.
If I do that, does that help?
No.
How about now?
No, it's about the same.
No change.
No change.
No change.
But I bet if you just move a little bit closer to the computer, we'll grab it a little bit louder. You might not be able to rock us.
I can speak louder too. Does that help?
It does.
A little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's all right.
And Ethan, if you can turn yours down a little bit.
Oh yeah, totally. I'll back up from the mic and I'll kind of whisper.
So let's get into some stuff here. What do you want? There was voicing stuff. There's soundboard stuff. There's all kinds of stuff we can talk about here that I'd like to get into. Yeah, you were talking to me a little bit before the session about how you and your wife had worked together doing some rebuilding things, and I'm just curious about interesting things that you've arrived at having worked on soundboards and doing rebuilding, tweaks or discoveries or turning points for you that people might be interested to hear about. Well, having made 470 soundboards now, most of them Steinway, from all the different eras of time. In fact, I've got one from 1880 in the shop now. You pick up a real sense of what was sort of standard. In other words, what were the things that made them the same, and what were the things that made them different? And decades ago, I would have two soundboards in the shop. Either I was bellying the piano there, or one was sent to me in a box. And the serial now, let's say there's Steinway Bs, the serial numbers might have been only 150, units apart. And yet, on one, the thickness in the middle of the board was maybe 350 thousandths. And on the other one, it was 325 thousandths. The ribs, another big thing. I count the ribs from the bass, from the bottom of the tail of the piano up as number 1, 2, and up in the treble would be 11, 12, and 13, whatever. The depth of the ribs was not uniform. Some were much taller than others. The thinning pattern was never the same. I shouldn't say never, but often not identical. Some are much thinner going around the curve and into the tail of the piano than others. And all of these things had an impact on the tone, because the more mass and the more bulk there is in a soundboard, the more impedance there is. Now, impedance simply means does the soundboard readily move, that the strings readily move the soundboard. The bulkier it is, the strings have more difficulty in moving the soundboard. And so there's what we call feedback. The string vibrations reach the bridge, and then they get fed back to the string. And the string says, I don't want them. I want you to have them, soundboard. The soundboard says, I don't want them either. You take them back. So that fight between the string and the soundboard system goes on, and that's what we call sustain. So the bulkier it is, the more sustain you're going to get, but not necessarily power, because power and sustain is a zero-sum game. As sustain goes up, power output goes down, and as power output goes up, sustain goes down. But a nice mix of the two is really makes the best soundboard. So we had to ask ourselves, where do we want to go with this? Because obviously we don't necessarily want to copy something that looks bulky. On the other hand, we want to necessarily copy something that looks like it's too, that the impedance is too low. That would be a very thin soundboard with very shallow ribs, which would be happy to receive the impulse from the string, but it bangs it right through, just like a cowbell or a snare drum. Big power outburst, but no follow through. So all of those things, we had to figure out where we want to go with this. And, we came up with what we believe is the happy medium that gives both a good power spectrum and also a good follow through on the sound of the tone. And so that's something that we've had to work with as we've gone through the years. And we're not the only ones, that have had to look at that, but we've had our own personal journey on that. We think we've reached, and according to our customers and universities and other, end users of our product have been extremely happy. So obviously we've hit on that. So
Thanks for,
the other thing too about,
just to interrupt you on that,
is-
because maybe there's something
your
deeper
question?
I'm just curious. I'm not sure if they talk about this kind of relationship in the Reblets, which was, had been the sort of traditional kind of Bible of piano
very
information.
it was transformative in its day and still is.
Yeah, I remember reading Mario Egrek's book and sort of learning about some of the things that you're talking about, just sustain and impedance and how all those things work together. Can you talk, maybe if you know about it, if you can talk about it, if you don't, that's fine. Like the evolution of, at least even for you, understanding of these things. I mean, you're an engineering background, but I think, a lot of piano technicians might have been absent of some of the, technical understanding of these things, maybe working on intuition. Do you have a sense of the evolution of how that information sort of became more widespread or less widespread, or how you sort of started to think in those terms?
Well, yeah, what informs it is pretty disparate, but I can start with at least one aspect of this, and that is my son as a college professor in electrical engineering. And the idea of power output and dwell, which exists in electronics and electricity, and it's some of the foundational things. Reactance is really the main word to it. So you have energy flow in electricity, which is called current, and you have reactance, and you have the other items and components that go into a system that restrict the flow.